Hey, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the third episode of Courtship Code, brought to you by Black Muslim Single Society and hosted by me, Zara J. Thank you guys so much for joining me for week 3 of this podcast. And we've been getting some amazing feedback, a lot of support. So make sure if you are listening on the Anchor app that you go ahead and you favorite this podcast so that you get notifications for any upcoming episodes, and that you like and share. Follow us on Instagram at Black Muslim Single Society. Make sure that you are sharing this podcast with your friends and other people who need to hear it, who the show would benefit and be good for. So thank you guys for joining me this week. Today, we have a special guest. We have not just one half of That Clay couple, which is a marriage counseling couple in Atlanta, Georgia. They're located in Atlanta, Georgia, but they serve everywhere. But we also have someone who's a very good friend to me. This is like family right here. So I'm super excited to bring you guys into this conversation, because this is kind of just how we usually talk. This is just every day for us. So to allow you guys into our living room. So thank you for listening. So we have Hasan Clay from That Clay couple, marriage counselor, speaker, just an all-around great guy. So we're excited to have him as a part of the show today. And we're going to be talking about if you should measure someone's past against their future, how to weigh those pros and cons, how to weigh their actions. And if it's you, if you're the one who has the past actions that people are constantly weighing, or that you are constantly judging yourself by, what to do about that. So excited to bring it to you guys today, and we're just going to jump right into the show. One more announcement, 3 more announcements. So first of all, if you have not put your personalized profile into Black Muslim Single Society, join our matchmaking service. Make sure that we know that you're available, so we know your pros, your cons. You can book a consultation if you have any questions, but you don't have to book a consultation if you're just putting your profile in the system. Go to the website, blackmuslimsinglesociety.com, and go ahead, male and female, man and woman, brother and sister, whatever. Go ahead, put your profile in the system so we can work on getting you matches. The more people, the better our matches. And we have a great pool of people available already, so we want you to be a part of that. Number 2, if you are on the West Coast, the Midwest, really anywhere in the country, don't forget that we will be collaborating with the Muslim Journal for the Time to Be Grateful conference this December 15th for a singles mixer in Houston, Texas. So if you love conferences, if you want to come out and shake it up with your Muslim family, meet some other singles in not just the Houston area, like I said, from all over the country, make sure that you also come out to Houston this December. Book your plane, train, go ahead, get your hotel room squared away with your family and friends, and plan out for this winter vacation. But go ahead and get that ready. Third announcement and last thing before we jump into the show. The DMV area, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, we just announced our next singles social, and it's going to be a brunch party, a very intimate event, and we will have 2 different events for those who are over 45 and those who are under 45. So we have 2 events in one day. Make sure that you grab those tickets. It's extremely limited. It's an extremely limited intimate dinner party, because we want to make sure that everyone gets to actually interact and meet a potential option, inshallah. So go ahead to our website, blackmuslimsinglesociety.com, on our events page, or if you follow us online at Instagram or Facebook, Black Muslim Single Society or Black Muslim Single Socials, you'll have the link in our bio to go ahead and purchase your tickets. Tickets are already selling, and they're super, super limited, so do not wait. Grab your tickets. Clay right here. Thank you so much, Hassan from That Clay couple, for joining us on the Courtship Code podcast. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Even better now. Okay, awesome. So first of all, for those of you who don't know, this is my guy Hassan. This is like family right here. the pleasure of being a part of a conversation that this is like every day for us. This is Monday, Tuesday morning, every day, just how we talk. So this ain't just a one-time ready. This is really how we talk. So this is a family conversation. I'm letting y'all in on family right now.
Okay.
Hasan, so the topic for this week, and the reason why I wanted to have you on the show, I already introduced you. People who are listening know that you're a marriage counselor, and you and your wife, y'all do a great job with that in the Muslim community and the community at large as well. Just Muslim counseling for everyone. But this topic is talking about how to measure someone's past against their future. What indicators do you have? Are you right for making judgment calls against them? How do how much weight does a person's past actions have against their future? So I'm just going to let you kind of take the mic with that, and we'll just vibe in from there.
All right. That's a very tricky question, because for one, I would never tell someone not to discount a person's past. Because that there is a set pattern that takes place with a person's past. But what if this person has tried to make amends for their life and different things that they may have done something when they were younger? They were probably a little foolish at the time, maybe lack of knowledge on certain things. And so they trying to turn the table. Do I now hold that against them? And that's going to be a personal decision for, a man or woman. That would be a personal decision, because, who really wants to be the test tube dummy, the crash test dummy situation, right? But, at some point you have to try to give someone the benefit of the doubt and gauge their sincerity on what you really can gauge it on. Now, if they are just sitting there talking lip service, what I would advise anyone not to just jump straight into something. Give a person an opportunity to prove themselves.
Right.
Lay some track work out. If you sitting there talking, I'm through with running a bunch of women and doing this and that, but your phone keeps ringing from all these different women. Or men. I just use it as a man situation, but and you're true, that because some women have a have a contact list that's tremendous. So, if you are in a position of not changing, not deleting people out your contacts, always making excuses for, well, that's just a friend and all this old type of stuff.
But hold on, let's pause right there for a second. I'm sorry to cut you off, but we just literally talked about this friend, right? Using the word friend inappropriately. Like, before we jumped on this call, we had a really great conversation, alhamdulillah. And one of the topics that we talked about, for everyone that's listening, was the topic of misusing the word friend. Because when you abuse that word, it can create all type of other issues, right? And a friend isn't a person that you have ever slept with, a person that you've ever courted. It's not you can have a friendship with one of your exes, but that's not your friend.
Right. In old terms, don't be talking about your friends, your cut buddy, that's your friend. Y'all sleeping together, y'all doing things.
Want to be with you, but you call them a friend, because you don't want to give it the proper label.
Right. No, don't do that. So, but in this situation though, you have people who would say, well, I make friends with the opposite sex easier. I hear some women who used to say, or some may still say, I don't really do women well. I can do all the cattiness. And then you have some brothers who say, I grew up around a bunch of women. I just make friends with women easier, or whatever the case may be. Well, if you are talking about being in a relationship with someone, you have to be in a position now of excusing or eliminating those type of relationships in order to help the other person be comfortable. Now, I'm not talking about the person who just have this over accentuated means of jealousy or thoughts of jealousy.
Right, on things that are actual friendships.
Right. I'm not talking about, people who have built genuine platonic friendships.
Right.
So
but hang on to their past just in case this don't work out. Keep them in the pocket.
Right. You know what I mean? So I'm not talking about the people who have genuine platonic friendships. So
right.
If that's cool, if you cool like that and y'all cool like that, you shouldn't have like a list of 30 people that you have these type of friendships with.
Right.
Every
person I talk to is my friend. Every single person that was interested in me is now my friend. Like, no, those not your friends.
They're not your friends. I don't know many women who in my past who I have tried to be romantically involved with at some point. This is not during my pre-Islamic days, okay? So let me put that disclaimer there, right? And so I do not have friends who I used to kick it with.
Right. You ain't got no friends that you seen naked.
No, I don't. And so
let me ask you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, and that would be a problem, I'm sure, for any person.
Right.
You sitting there kicking and chatting, talking,
Right.
And you and this person used to have, that would be uncomfortable for anybody.
Right. So let me ask you, so you meet this guy or this girl and, y'all attracted to each other, the vibe is good and everything like that. So you're interested in getting to know them, but you find out some things about this person's past. Maybe they have a past history of jumping in and out of marriages. Maybe they have a past history of dating or sleeping around. Maybe they have a past history of addiction or abuse or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you have to give people an opportunity to redeem themselves. What does that process look like?
For one,
typically in Islam, right, we have these not really extensive courtships. So you have a really small window to make calls on taking this. Basically, courtship is taking this person to trial, right? So you have a very small window, a relatively small window to view certain things or come up with these decisions about if this person's past is still very much a part of their present.
Well, and here my question would be for you to give more clarity. What is the small window? Who determines the small window? What is the time frame?
Let's just say 6 months. Let's just say 6 months.
6 months is a pretty good time for. 6 months is a good time to really figure a person out.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you guys if this thing has become exclusive, like you get into the intended phase, where it's going to be, okay, I'm looking at marrying you, but this is going to be the time frame that we get married. So they're going to show themselves as they're going to get real comfortable. It's just human behavior. They're going to get real comfortable. So you're going to know if they're doing some things. You're going to know if they're trying to do some things or, they're sneaking around or whatever the case may be. Those things are going to be exposed, especially if you are trying to do it right. Now, I'm not saying everything is 100%. I'm not saying nothing is foolproof or whatever the case may be. So I'm not going to be naive. And I don't want to speak like I'm naive in that matter. But what I am saying is that you will give that person an opportunity. In 6 months, that person really can show themselves, and you need to know what the heck you're looking for.
Right. See, here's the thing that a lot of people aren't aware of, right? So typically I believe there are about 3 different phases of what's considered to be courtship, right? If you are given it time, right? So within the first 0 to 3 months, that's like the infatuation stage, right? It's a lot of oxytocin built up in you, a lot of infatuation. And honestly, if that person doesn't fully capture your attention in those 3 months, it's going to be very hard for them to make it further than that. So that's why a lot of courtships fall off before that 3 month time period, right? Then between that 3 to 6 month time period, that's where a lot of the fake and the funk starts to come out, because that, like you said, people get comfortable, the oxytocin starts to wear off, and you start to pick up on people's little quirks, people's little behaviors, their inconsistencies. It usually starts surfacing between that 3 to 6 month time period.
Right.
So you have to be really, seeing someone with your eyes open and not your eyes closed. But that can be really difficult once the emotional bond is there from that oxytocin and from the first 3 months. So how do you remain balanced? I think the key to that is making sure that you have a third party involvement and that you're staying on track.
No doubt. But no doubt.
And not just dragging it out with no real purpose or direction.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. But here's what I want.
No, you gotta say it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. But I mean, that's just a figure of speech in a sense. But here's what I want people to also look at, even though they are within that 1 to 3 month phase where the infatuation is, and people have these rose-colored glasses or whatever the case may be. I want them to understand, too, that red flags appear in that time frame. And you need to pay attention to it. And don't excuse it.
Right. And I know you guys have a course and you teach that about, identifying red flags. And that is something. So if you guys are listening and you want to, better learn, because that's not something that we teach at Black Muslim Single Society. So make sure that you guys, it's HasanClay.com. Or is
it's actually, you can actually it's going to be www.HasanandNaila.com. Or you can
and Naila is spelled Naila.
Or to make it even simple, you can hit us at thatclaycouple.com.
Okay, yes. So, go to thatclaycouple.com if you want to learn more information about identifying red flags, because that's one thing, Hassan, I believe that a lot of times people, they're in marriages, right? And they've been married for now like 2 years, 5 years, maybe even 10 years. And they're like, I didn't see it in the beginning. It's like, no, you saw it.
You excused it.
You ignored it.
Right.
But you saw it. It wasn't that.
You didn't even ignore it. What you did was you made an excuse for it.
Right.
Well, that's just, that's just this, or that's just that. You made excuses. You didn't ignore it. You identified it. You saw it.
Right.
But you excused it away. And so instead of addressing it and saying, hey, I saw this, let's have a conversation about it. You can be an adult. You don't have to get all ghetto. You can have an adult conversation.
The girl, I ain't gonna.
Yeah, you ain't got to be like, yeah, sister, whatever. You don't have to do all that.
I ain't dealing with that, sister.
You don't have to do all that. You can say, hey, look, I'm thankful for you. I like you. You seem like a good person. But I just saw something that I may need an explanation about.
Right. And I think that, especially for women, a lot of times that having that conversation is really uncomfortable. And I know that, we've talked about this. Like, you have these conversations without coming off aggressive or without, seeming like you're applying too much pressure or kind of cornering somebody, and learning kind of the arts of having that open dialogue, of vulnerability, of feeling comfortable enough to express it, but also having the confidence to do it, understanding that if you hear something or that is something that really bothers you, you have to have the confidence to make a decision call.
Right, and this is what I call, and in that conversation we've had before, this is what I call understanding the difference between assertiveness and being aggressive.
Right.
And when a person is assertive, they have that confidence, but they're moving with regards to someone else. So I'm not really trying to step on your feelings. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm not trying to belittle you. I'm not trying to make a judgment on you. I'm just calling something out for what I see.
Right.
And I want you to be able to address that. I want to have a real adult conversation about this issue. Now, aggressiveness would, look, bruh, what's your problem? Dang, Hey, that's what's wrong with you. You know, you people, you doing this. You brothers, you always doing it. This is judgment.
Oh, I hate the these people line when people start. Who are these people you talking about? Like,
right. You know,
these people, these
right.
men,
So,
these brothers, these sisters. Like that has nothing to do with the person that's right in front of you.
Right in front of you, right? And so this is when the whole attitude, the whole neck rolling, you know, and this is when that whole, you know, our brothers want to point their finger and they want to broaden their chest out, their nose go to flat. You know, these are the type of incidents where
don't tolerate.
Right. You know, this is when those instances of aggression come out, being aggressive come out. You know, and so what people nowadays think assertiveness is to be aggressive, and aggressive really is to be obnoxious, because that's really some true obnoxious behavior that's really going on. But we kind of lose that whole understanding of how to interact with people. You know, we lose interpersonal skills, and we act like we have no home training. We was taught how to do better, right? But you know, we were taught how to do better now. But somewhere along the line, the popular cultural outlet takes over, and we've been conditioned to think that this is how you do it, but it's not how you do it, because
I've talked about that, you know, even with women and femininity, right? And this isn't limited to just women, because brothers, we know that y'all pop off very well too. But a lot of times, you know, I feel like for women, especially Black women, you know, which that means it pours into the Black Muslim community, because we cannot, you know, our childhood, we can't escape our community, our environment. But a lot of times we were mistrained by our mothers on how to handle conflict. So when that customer service rep, you know, made a mistake or irritated, first thing you saw your mother do was pop off. This is how you handle it. This is what, and so you believe that that's how you get what you want, instead of the art of communication and handling conflict, and ultimately working to create win-win situations.
Exactly. And this is we forgot and this is what I tell people, that when you negotiate, it's a difference between compromising. There's going to be somebody who loses.
Someone has to lose in the compromise.
But when you negotiate, you bring about a win-win situation. Right. So, you know, when I look at individual, I look at a sister. Let's, for instance, let's say I see a sister who has been married, and because I'm a man, so I'm gonna use a sister in this instance. I've seen a sister who's been married 3 times, maybe 2-3 kids. So now she gets to me, you know. Now, I may think, okay, do I really want to be number 4? Right. Do I really want to be number 4? You know, but let me see what this sister's putting down, because maybe between 3 and 4, or since that 3rd one, she hadn't been married in 5 or 6 years.
Right. She's had time to reflect.
She had time to sit down and reflect. So I want to see where her head might be at this point. I want to see what's going on with her. And maybe, you know, she may have seen some errors, and obviously she won't know how to work it out until she actually gets back into the game, right? It's all theory until she get back into the game. But at this point, maybe I understand that she understands theory a little better, and maybe be willing to implement the strategies that she thinks she has learned, and learn how to tweak them when she don't see it as actually going the way that she thought it should go.
Increase those awareness.
And so in that, I see that she's working. She didn't, you know what? Just give me a cool.
She's not stagnant with where she was 5 or 10 years ago.
Exactly. She's just not quick to say, you know what? Just divorce me. Or you know what, brother? Give me a divorce. You know, I ain't got to put up with this. And so now she's ready to not only is she understanding conflict, you know, intervention, but she also knows conflict prevention. Right. Because she's going to try to stay away from certain things that she know that would be a trigger for her, and be able to communicate to me those things that might be a trigger for her.
Right.
So I know, stay away from that.
Yeah. No, I think that you bring up an excellent point, and that's a great thing to touch base on, around this topic, because a few months back on BlackMuslimSingleSociety.com, we had a blog about understanding in courtship the difference between seeking understanding versus seeking judgment, right? And I think that a lot of times it's easier for people to create judgments off the bat about somebody, put them into categories, to have these check boxes instantly. This person, like you said, this man or woman been married 3 times, they got 2 or 3 kids, bad. This person, good. Without having to actually take the time to investigate, to actually understand this person. Okay, let me learn a little bit about what your upbringing was like. Let me learn a little bit about what your past relationships were like. Let me learn a little bit about your goals, or how you think, or how you process things. It takes a lot out of you to have to be patient enough and willing to understand someone. It doesn't require much of you to pass a judgment on them.
Exactly.
It doesn't require you to be open. It doesn't require you to be vulnerable. It doesn't require you to kind of level up your thought process and your emotions. So I feel like a lot of times we pre-label people in the Muslim community as just good, bad, right, wrong, marriageable, not, and just try to blanket people because it doesn't require anything of us to actually have to dig deeper.
I mean, and a lot of times what we have learned how to do is become like water, and water takes the path of least resistance. So we love easy. We love easy. So it's easier for me to judge you than to understand you. It's easier for me to just cut you loose and cut you off or discount you versus me to really get an understanding and say, you know what, everybody comes with some idiosyncrasies, everybody comes with some shortcomings, and hey, I got mine, so let's see if my shortcomings and your shortcomings going to be able to match.
Can we get help?
And see if we can make some things happen. And so, because,
and I think, go ahead.
Because a lot of times, everybody, it is like an interview. Everybody comes to the interview to tell their best features. But nobody comes to the interview and say, sometimes it's hard for me to get out that bed and get here on time. But because you're a late person, but you're not going to tell that.
Right.
But now this is somebody's life that you're dealing with. And so, for instance, I have a couple who deals, one brother deals with, some sex addictions.
Okay.
And so, but when he walked into the marriage, he let it be known that he had some issues, right? So now, what happens when those issues, when he has a relapse, because addiction is a relapse. When he has a relapse, because he didn't actually, even though he told the story, he didn't tell how to help him in that situation. So his wife automatically passed judgment. Right. You see, so now when what we were able to do is in working with them and say, hey, you have to be not just transparent, because a lot of times we lose the meaning of transparent, but in transparency, you have to help educate the person. It's just not being open and telling a person what it is that you need to tell them. It's not just telling them and showing them how to help you.
Right.
Showing them how you can be of service to me and help me do better. And
when I'm struggling.
And how with my struggles.
Right.
So this is some of the things I need. So in that, you say, okay, let me help him with his parameters.
Assist that person also. Like, you have to be willing to assist that person and not pass judgment on them when they are in that place of vulnerability, that place of faultiness.
Exactly. And so, but that's where the understanding comes in. you know, and I think Stephen Covey put out in his book one of those 7 habits was seek understanding, then I think like seek understanding, then to be understood.
Seek to understand, then to be understood.
Right, and so in that, you know, it's all, and that really comes from an Islamic principle, in my opinion, because the first thing that we do it's not about what my rights are. It's about your rights that I have to give you.
Your rights first. Mm-hmm.
You know, so in that, I have to be able to understand what it is that you need from me.
Right.
And then in return, and if both of us are doing that, we automatically seeking to understand the other person. And in that, we're going to be understood.
Right. I'm going to seek to see what you need from me, and then in return, you understand what I need from you.
Exactly, because we're both actually working on the same principle of seeking to understand the other person.
Right. Now, two things I wanted to touch base on. The first thing is the fact that so this whole judgment calls, right? This place of judgment that we're often in a community when we're meeting one another, potentially for marriage, or, you know, when people are seeking a spouse. Where do you think that stems from? Because it's not Islamic at all, right? Like, we're supposed to judge people based on how they interact with us. You know, we're supposed to, you know, have a good idea of people, you know, unless you have a reason to think ill of them. And as we've seen, you know, in the examples of the Sahabas, of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his wives, you know, they had past. You know, they had past, came with baggage, they came with children, they came with exes, they came with addictions, they came with issues, right?
Right.
A lot of them had shady histories. But we don't see examples of this extreme judgmentalness that we see in the Muslim community. Now, we're just human, so we're going to come with flaws. But why do you think that it's easier for us to ignore that, you know, the way that they pursued each other, that they assisted each other, or that they forgave each other, that we just refuse to go there?
Well, I think, you know, for one, and let's be real, they were in the best times because they had the messenger with them. So, you know, this is, you know, obviously they will be able to have the best of teachers because they had the best teacher right there with them. You know, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But here also, don't get this twisted. You know, there are many narrations where you see that they were judging one another.
True.
You know, so they were just as human as we are. You know what I mean? And I give one example of where the man, you know, he urinated in the masjid, and so, you know, they were ready to put hands on him. You know what I'm saying? You know, so that's the ultimate judgment. They've been to put hands on him. You see? So in that, though, you know, they had somebody who was able to be there and to be rational minded to say, wait a minute, hold up, don't do this. You know, let me, matter of fact, you clean it up and let me take him to the side. You know, let me talk with him. You know, so somebody was there who was the voice of reason, and that was our messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, that's just one situation. So there are people in our time who have voices of reason, and we have to listen.
Right.
And that, I think that might be more of the issue now than probably then, because we don't want to listen.
Right, and we just talked about that.
Right. We don't think people, you know, what they're saying doesn't mean that doesn't have more value than what I think.
Right, or what I feel.
Exactly. So in that, if we take the time to listen and to pay attention, and once we pay attention, you know, we can be in a position of, okay, maybe changing our mind. Like, for instance, had another situation, to give you an example. I love case study. So I'll give you another example of, you know, I had a sister that was going through some things, and she was kind of mad at a few people, right? But, you know, her emotion kept her mad for a minute. But when someone was able to talk to her and say, hey, let me give you some clarity on this situation. And then when she was able to sit down and listen to the clarity, then she could start reflecting, and then she was allowed to reflect on even where she was coming from in the whole ordeal. And what her position might be in the whole ordeal. She's seen the event totally different. You know, and so she can get to the core of what her issue was, and then start working from that, working to recover based upon what her core issue might be.
Yeah.
So in that, we have to sit down and be in a position of listening. If we listen more and talk less, you know, then you wouldn't hear judgment so much.
Right. And also understand how to use discernment for what you're listening to. You know, how to sort through it, how to figure out, you know, what's really going on here.
Right.
You know, one thing, you know, speaking of case studies, which is, you know, perfectly on topic with that, a brother, you know, sought some advice from me about a situation that he was dealing with. And, you know, he married brother, young brother, you know, and he was really struggling with dealing with his wife's past. Right now, he wasn't necessarily the most innocent person either, but he had found out some things about his wife's past and things that she lied to him about because she wasn't comfortable sharing certain things with him, right? So one way or another, you know, he found out some information about her, found out that she lied and she covered up something that doesn't necessarily directly impact their marriage, but it was just something that he now felt like, you know, she lied to him and he was always honest with her about his past and she wasn't 100%. And, you know, he was like, you know, kind of in divorce mode because he felt like he doesn't trust her and he just couldn't let it go. Right? He couldn't let it go. He couldn't move past it. And, you know, they now have children or anything like that, but he just was like really insistent on she's had this past and she didn't tell me about this past. And maybe I would have made a different choice if she would have told me about that past. So I gave him advice on what he should do, but I'm just curious from a premarital counseling position and from a marriage counseling position, what would you advise for somebody like that? So, you know, so it's also a little bit of they both went off the path. You know, it's not like they, you know, this was prior to Islam. They both kind of went out, did their own thing, and then came back.
Well, you know, one thing that happens when a person is opening themselves up to be vulnerable, sharing their secrets and sharing certain things, obviously they want that reciprocated.
Yes. Yes.
And sometimes, but that has to be the decision of the other person. Right. And sometimes it's not those things are not going to be reciprocated because for them, there may be a strong connection to shame about it. You know, so sometimes we have to watch what we ask people to open up about.
Yeah.
Because we may not be able to close them off or help them close off from being open like that. And so now lying is something different. You know, lying would be something different because lying would denote a means of deception. So I am telling you this lie to deceive you, to believe, make you believe this particular way, or to manipulate you into going in this direction. That, you know, so if I say, you know, no, I've never stolen anything in my life, but then somebody just sit there and told you, you know, man, that man stole the money out of them people's house. You know what I mean? So, you know, or he went to jail for stealing, right? And so obviously I'm lying, right? And so how do I trust a liar?
Yeah, now so how does that person cope with that? Now you're married to this person. And a lot of people have experienced deception in courtship, get married to somebody, and they find out, oh, well, you kept this from me, or I asked you about this and you lied to me. You sent your representative, not the full person. But now you're married to this person. You're in this person's home. You might have children with this person. How do you move past that past? Or do you make a decision? Like, do you have to forgive that? Do you have to move? Is that okay to be like, no, I'm not okay with this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I had a call come in on me. I'm sorry.
Did you hear what it did?
Work always have to be done, right? So.
Get the money, honey. So did you hear the full question?
I think I heard to a point. How do a person recover? Basically, you asking how does a person recover?
Okay, how do you cope with that? Because now you're married to this person, you're in the same home, you might have children with this person. You found out they deceived you in courtship, but now you're tied to this person. You know, how do you cope with that? Or is it okay for you to be like, you know what? No, I don't want to cope with this. I feel like you deceived me, and now I can't trust that you won't do it again. Like, how do you deal with that?
Well, and here is, and that's going to be on an individual basis.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's probably going to be how deep they felt the deception might have been, or what angle that the deception took place. And I would also say, because, you know, the person may have had some type of fears or some certain things that's going on that made them tell that lie, or whatever the case may be. And have they been what you consider to be truthful after that? You know, a lot of times people do things based upon self-preservation, and I'm not saying that's actually a good thing, but it's just a human thing.
Right.
So, and a lot of times, you know, it's just like a child. You know, I had a niece when she was little, you know, and this is gonna sound crazy. She used the restroom. She peed on herself, right? But she was holding this doll baby, right? You know, them dolls that, you know, that wet itself, right?
The doll did it, right?
And she kept saying to me, "It ain't me," right? But I mean, it's flowing, right? It ain't me, right? So in that, if you look at the situation, I mean, and then she had to be every bit about 2, right? But she already learned to make sure she protect herself.
Yeah.
Right. Even when the evidence is clear that it's her. Only thing she knew was just to protect herself. Right. Okay. Now get to a position where something that you have, you think is going to be of value to you.
Right.
You know, and so some people show up faulty. You know, for some reason or other, the sister really wanted him. She knew if he would have knew this about her, maybe she couldn't get him, and she wanted to change her life, and, you know, whatever the case may be. I would say it still doesn't make it right.
Right.
And they still have to recover from that.
Right.
He would have to be in a position of saying, you know what, either I can do it or I can't do it. Maybe he might need some counseling.
Right.
You know, maybe he may need some counseling, because that, you know, that might be what he needs to be able to trust her.
Right.
You know, trust isn't just, you know, once trust is lost, it's not given back overnight.
Right. That's what I was going to say. And that person has to be willing to give that person time to get to the point where it needs to be. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, so something that you just said reminded me of, I can't remember if it was Mufti Mink or Numan Ali Khan, one of them, a lecture that I heard some years ago. They mentioned, you know, when you're dealing with your children, and this can apply to relationships as well, but they mentioned basically making it comfortable for them to be honest with you, or learning to accept the answers that they gave you and let it go. When you ask them questions, you know, did you do something, whatever, don't continue to badger and dig in, because then that person falls into that place of self-preservation where I'm alive to protect myself, right? Instead, you know, you ask them a question, they say, no, I didn't do it. Okay, let it go. Because it's going to surface one way or another. You don't have to dig that deep. It's going to come.
Well,
you know?
I don't know if I actually agree with that. Right.
Well, hold on a second.
Okay.
So, because their point in saying that is because when you do this with children, right, and you push them into the place where they have to, you know, really defend themselves, or they feel like, or let's say you don't believe them. It was more under the context of you believe that they did something, but they're telling you that they didn't, and you really have no proof or evidence that they did it.
Mm-hmm.
So now you keep digging, and now they learn to always go into defense mode or to lie to save themselves, you know, and you have to be careful with that. And so with relationships, do you feel like when you set that tone of being accusatory, especially when you have no evidence, you don't know, you know, if this person in their past has been a certain way? Because I see that sometimes with matchmaking. You know, brothers and sisters, they'll have trust issues with nothing to really distrust about this person, you know, and they're coming into the courtship distrusting that person's past, assuming this person is going to be a certain way or do certain things, right? With no real evidence, and they are stuck in that place, and they drive in on that place, and they can't fully accept that, you know, this person has changed, or this person isn't who you want them to be, or something like that. And they just assume that they're going to be deceived, or that they have been deceived with really no evidence. Like, how do they deal with that?
Well, and I want to take, you know, maybe, you know, I think that has to be broken up into maybe a couple of situations.
Okay, wind it back.
All right. So here's first thing. I think a person needs to, especially if they have intuition. I think a person has the right to have their intuition satisfied.
Okay, I agree with that.
You know, so, you know, now I'm not saying suspicion.
Right.
I'm not really calling it suspicion, but I do believe that a person has a right to have their intuition satisfied.
Intuition and suspicion. There's definitely a difference. Yeah.
And so I believe that a person, if they ask a question, I am a person who really believes I ask at least 3 questions when I ask, because I believe in asking initial question, and then I really don't like leaving a question to yes or no. So I believe in posing questions that I will get an answer from. And so therefore I am able to probe a little more into it. You see what I'm saying? And then their lives, because I'm not really worried about, because I need to have a core understanding. Again, I need to have a core understanding of what it is that I feel like I've been violated.
Right.
You see, and in this thing, we're talking about violations. I'm not sitting there actually talking about, you know, because if somebody does something to me, it's not the event that I'm really mad about. It's the violation of my value, that has just been, you know, impeded on. So I need to get some satisfaction about that value. How did you get to an understanding to be able to do this? So I'm not going to ask you, did you do it? Did you do it? I pretty much figured that you've done it. Now, I'm going to ask questions of, you know, what would lead a person to be able to move in this direction? I'm going to try to give you a safety net.
Yeah.
You can just jump out there on it.
I literally just had a conversation about that yesterday. A woman reached out to me yesterday, not Muslim, and she reached out to me for some advice. And it's very interesting because she confided in me about, she's going through a divorce period right now. She's going through a divorce, and she was asking me, do I think it's okay for her to date someone while she's going through divorce. Like, her and her husband, they're getting a divorce. And, she's just waiting for it to be finalized. Is it okay? So we had a quick conversation about that. But then, she's told me about what happened in her marriage. And she committed adultery in her marriage. And she,
she's already dating. What's she talking about? Okay. My bad. That sounded like judgment, don't it? That sounded like judgment then, didn't it?
I mean, judge away. I told her it's on the judgment zone with me. I'm just going to listen. But, and she's talking about it, and she's talking about, he wasn't giving her this, or he wasn't doing that, and different things of that sort. I had to ask her, I said, okay, I see that a lot of the things that you're saying is reflective upon him, right? But do you know why you decided to make that choice? Because he can do whatever he's doing. But for her, particularly for her, because she is a religious woman. She's a religious woman. She's preaching, and, she's a part of a ministry. Her father's a preacher. And so, like, you're a woman that has values, and values have been instilled in you. So have you dug deeper into your own relationship history, your own childhood, your own trauma, your own, emotional challenges that you're dealing with to figure out what pushed you to compromise your values?
Exactly.
To do that. Forget about him and he wasn't stepping up and how you wanted him to step up and you didn't feel, that deep of, okay. But what made you violate your own values to do that?
Exactly.
And she's like, what? I really hadn't thought that deeply about it. And that's where, like you said,
the problem.
Values. Yeah. You're concentrating on the symptom and not the root of it.
Exactly. You want to deal with the event, and but there is something, because in this, okay, he may not have been stepping up. You could have took a couple of options here. You could have cut him loose and kept your values, but cut him loose. But then you say, well, divorce isn't from our way, so cheating is from your way. You see what I'm saying? So it's gonna, it what it really comes down to is that person actually may had just had some selfish thoughts. And, I'm just going to do me because he's doing him or whatever. It could have been a multitude of things. But therein, let's look at the value of why you feel like, it's okay to just do you.
Right.
And that's the value there. That's a value that probably hasn't even been claimed or understood that's there. But that's a value that's there. So when we start looking at the violations of what we're going through, and and if we go back to the original question that started this show, of a person having a background, does the background violate your values?
Okay, so let's say you meet someone and let's say their past values does violate, some things that they have done, some things that they have experienced, and we've talked about this even before when it comes to, and I don't want to offend nobody that's listening. I ain't trying to, because it's going to be a little touchy right now. But let's say you have someone let's say you have a sister that's a virgin, right? Never been married. And she marries a brother who does have a past, who's been married several times. Maybe he's been out there sleeping around, whatever, his past experiences are. And she really doesn't have a past. How do you rectify that? Because that means that one person is definitely coming into the marriage with some past issues and traumas from their experiences, and that other person pretty much has a clean slate. They're not perfect, they're gonna have issues too, but when it comes to their past relationships, stuff like that, they don't have that. Like it's perfectly imbalanced. How does that person who's never been married or still a virgin or doesn't have that same experience, how do they deal with dealing with that person's past?
Again, it depends on if they value that in other people. You know, I may value it for myself, but I don't necessarily care if, you know, she, you know, she had.
Right. Hello? Tell we lost you again.
Man, I'm telling you, boy, it's like, hold up. I tell you what, look, let me tell you what happens. So if it seems like I go out or whatever, it's because my phone is blowing up right now, right? So it'll kick us off.
Thank you for giving us the time.
So it'll kick off on us, right? And then I just have to try to wait for, because of course I can't really see it. So I have to wait for to leave, and then I can come back. So if I go out like that, that's my problem. And I apologize.
Next time on here, I got to remind you to put your phone on Do Not Disturb, because that's what I do.
Okay. I didn't even think about that, you know. So I apologize to your listeners. You know, I don't want the listeners to think that I'm, you know, your listeners think that I'm trying to be neglective of them. So, but here's what I'm saying is that she or he may have a value for themselves that they necessarily don't hold somebody else to.
Right.
You know, so it may be, you know, I mean, it may be that I have this for myself. Now, here's the value that I'm going to look for from you. I'm going to look for, you know, I'm going to look for honesty, a value of honesty. I'm going to look for a value of value in our relationship. You know, I'm going to look for values of trust with you. I'm going to have values that I'm going to look for from you.
Right.
You know, I don't necessarily care that, you know, you don't kick this woman, that woman, been with this man, that man. You know, they got nothing to do with it.
You expect loyalty from you or fidelity.
Right. I'm going to expect loyalty from you. Right. So this is what, you know, whatever your past is your past. Now, if another person come up and say, you know, I'm not really comfortable, you know, brother, I'm, you know, I don't have any kids, and you got two, and you got maybe a couple of baby mamas, you know, a couple of mothers on your. I don't know how I feel to deal with that, so I'm a pass, and you have to just be adult enough to pass.
Now finish. There was something that you just said that I was going to ask you about, and it just kind of slipped my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
But anyway, I mean, until you get it together, I like to add this point with that, though.
Yeah.
You know, so when we start talking about people's past, it's really going to come down to what it is that you value.
Right.
You know.
And knowing those values, Hassan, I cannot tell you. And those of you who are part of Black Muslim Single Society, or you've done an interview with us, then you know that part of the interview process, when we're doing your 30-minute interview, one of the questions that's asked is, what are your values? And the majority, I would say 90%, 95% of men and women that we interview, and we ask them, what are your values? The first question, most of them, what do you mean? What are your values? What are your core values? They struggle. The average person cannot come up with more than, I say, 2 to 3 values without me having to guide them and push them and feed them things to consider. You know, it's very hard for that person. So that means if you're not in touch with your value system, you don't know what you value, how are you going to identify if that other person shares those same values?
Right. And how are you going to be able to communicate that value to? And this is what happens. And this is what happens to many relationships when they get into a point of, you know, you're just going to be disrespecting me. Only thing you want respect. But how do you want respect?
What does that look like to you?
What does that look like to you?
What does disrespect look like to you?
Exactly. You know, what's the standard for respect? You know, because you call it a value, but I don't know the expectations of that.
Right.
You know, I might think I'm respecting you in a way, and you may feel like I'm disrespecting you in other ways, and I feel like
I'm not cussing you out. I'm respecting you.
I'm respecting you.
I don't mind being cussed out. I don't want to be cheated on.
Right. You see what I'm saying? You know, and so, you know, I mean, like, for instance, you know, I say this, you know, I know a couple that, you know, even for myself, I can't stand certain words. I can't stand certain words. If you say certain words to me, it's just like, oh my God, man, I just lose my mind. Right?
Right.
But now, somebody else will sit there and hear that word and whatever.
It don't flinch.
It don't even flinch. You know?
Right.
So in that, it's going to be what's your standard of your value.
Right.
And a lot of people can't identify. You don't know how we go through even in premarital. You don't know how much we have to even work on people getting an understanding of their values, because when you get to going, we want you to understand your core values, because that's what you're going to make it on.
Right.
You know, now you as you get older and you mature, you know, there's going to be some changes that take place in you. There's going to be some priorities that are a little bit more than it used to be. But now we've taught you how to communicate that. So as you change, you can communicate that change to your spouse.
Right. Right.
You know,
I thought about the other question that I had that I wanted to ask you. So how much distance does a person need to have between them and their past? Because let's say, you know, they're coming out, like, for example, somebody I know who I just found out they have a 1-month-old baby. Like, oh, well, how did that happen? You know, like, you know, you just were out there doing you in the clubs and sleeping around, or, you know, out here, you know, with this one, that one, just, you know, 2-3 months ago, or maybe a year ago, you know, whatever that distance is, you know, and now you're saying that you want to marry, you've changed, and you want to do better. So how much, I know you can't put a number on it, but just from your experience with counseling and premarital counseling and dealing with couples, you know, how much distance do you feel as though a person needs between them and their past to really evoke change?
I mean, you know, there's a thing that says habits change in 21 days, right? That's actually a scientific study that deals with plastic surgery. Actually, plastic surgery. It takes a person 21 days to get used to their new face, right?
Okay.
But the reality of it, it takes, at least for a change to take place, it takes about 8 months.
Okay.
Right.
So you definitely need to see a major change in their lifestyle within the 8 month time. Now, should you court them?
No.
For their time period?
Here's my thing. And this is something that, and here's what I say. And even if, okay, and I'm going to use the instance that somebody's coming out of a relationship. All right. And we're not talking polygyny in this instance. Okay. We're just talking about, you know, one man, one woman, cut one man off, go to another man, whatever. Okay. If you are trying to get married immediately after your ITA period, to me, something's wrong here.
You're going to hurt some feelings with that one.
Right. Something's wrong. And maybe you just didn't care about that other person, because, you know, you still got to work with the whole, you know, I'm mad at you, whatever the case may be, you know, Negro, whatever the case may be. You still got to go through that. And why would I subject myself to that? You know, you going through your back and forth with your dude, your ex-dude. Why would I subject myself to that? And inject myself into that? You know? So I'm going to give you some time, period. You know, I would believe that if a person came up and it was a situation where a woman or a man had just got a divorce, it was maybe a long-term relationship, you know, let's say it was something that lasted maybe a few years or something in nature. You know, well, I'll actually add something to that too, because if it didn't last a few years and it was just a couple of months, you still need to be aware, because how in the heck they done changed? They done married somebody, ain't been married to them a couple of months, and then they want to get.
Not only that, but in my opinion, that can be even more traumatic in a lot of ways.
Exactly, that's the point that I'm making.
You didn't have the time period to kind of deal with the is it digression? I guess you can use that word, of the relationship, or the breakdown of the relationship. At least if it's a long-term relationship, you had a time period of that person breaking down and emotionally distancing themselves from the relationship. If they've been married 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, and then that relationship broke down, you know, they haven't had enough time to even, that was more of a,
right,
you know, or a lot of trauma in a short period of time.
Right, and I don't know if that person knows how to do relationships well.
Right.
And so that's the point that I'm looking at. You know, I'm subject, you know, I'm suspect of your understanding of how to do relationships well. So that's the point that I'm making with that. But if this is a person who was in a long-term relationship and then broke off, I would say that, you know, a person need healing time. You know, I need healing time. You know, I got kids. I still got to work. I still got to make the adjustment of my kids without their father or without their mother or whatever the case may be. I still got to go through this healing time. I have to get help. Maybe this situation might have been an abusive situation, or maybe it might have had some mental anguish in it or some emotional anguish in it. You know, I have to heal from that, because I don't want to give that to somebody else. You know, I don't, every time I hear a loud noise, I don't want to be flinching and going on. You know, I have to heal from that. And so I would say in that process, I would recommend that personally. I would recommend at least 8 months to a year, maybe a little longer, maybe, you know, maybe a little shorter, depending on where you are in that process. But 2-3 months afterwards, no. And so, and even now, I'm going back, and I'm gonna go back to the example that you used a little before about the individual and 1 month old baby.
Right.
All right.
A mess.
And okay. Now here's the point. Here's the point that I'm looking at. Let's say that 1 month old baby, you were married, and somewhere along the line, because y'all got into it, you know, y'all really couldn't make it happen, or whatever the case may be. Let's say that y'all was together a few years or a little bit before that, and she went into Idda, and she was in Idda in the pregnancy. Right? And then after the pregnancy was over with, obviously, and y'all don't, you know, once she has the baby, you know, she's no longer married to you. And so now he's moving on, you know, and he said, okay, I got a 1 month old baby. Well, you know, how you got a 1 month old baby, this and this and that? Then he can explain his situation. You know, we really haven't been together in almost a year, you know, close to a year, you know, 9 months, 10 months, or whatever the case may be. We haven't been together in a while. But she was in Idda while she was pregnant. You know, I didn't do anything. You know, I just kept myself cool, took care of her, did what she needed to do, or whatever the case may be. Now, if this is your girlfriend.
About to say, now, hold on a second.
Now, if this is your girlfriend, all right, and you got a 1 month old.
Or whatever. You know, or said, or one night stand or whatever. Something
right, or one night stand. And you talking about you trying to get yourself together. Well, I ain't gonna tell you no lie. I'm still suspect of that person.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Because I don't know how clear you are about
your whole value system is out of whack, bruh.
I don't know how clear you are about that. So, you know, I want to really be able to say, you know, bro, you know, okay, I feel you. You know, talk to my Wakil. Talk to my Wakil. Right.
Yeah, so sisters and brothers, if y'all out there doing y'all and y'all accidentally get somebody pregnant, y'all better make some, because we've heard a lot of these stories lately.
Exactly.
So men and women, it's not just the men, because the women, they be out there doing them, get knocked up by somebody, then they want to come back to the deen. Alhamdulillah for that.
Right.
But you gotta put some distance between that to create real change.
Exactly. You know, don't come in there, I'm ready now. And, you know, and brothers, and especially
be on your
head. Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. Brothers and sisters, you know, and brothers, you know, because the sister that had that baby, her body done got back right. She looking nice. She looking cute. Don't fool yourself.
Right.
You know, and thinking, you know, I'm going to make an honest woman out of her. Don't fool yourself.
Right.
You know, and sisters, you know, because his brother, you know, he got a decent job, or he doing this or doing that, or he looking nice, and he work out and all this type of stuff here. Don't fool yourself. Still give it an opportunity, you know, still let your brain lead, you know, your body parts.
Let your brain lead your body parts. There you go. Yeah. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hassan, from That Clay Couple. So let the people know where they can find you, what you got going on, what's going on with y'all.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, you can find us at thatclaycouple.com. That's our website. If you're on any social medias, just hashtag #thatclaycouple. We actually have a seminar going on. We have a tour going on, Marriage, Myth, and Me. Managing the Flow. We're doing Managing the Flow, Jersey, 2018, in Wildwood, New Jersey. Tickets, you can go to our website, get your tickets. It's exclusive, you know, first come, first served basis. We got a few days left on our early bird special, if this is going to be out in time, right? So this podcast is going to be out in time, but definitely go and check us out. You can find it on Facebook. We got our Facebook page at MTF Jersey, or you can go on. If you follow Imam Shadid Muhammad, you can get the information with him, or you can get the information with us at Hasan and Naila Clay on Facebook, or Hasan Clay on Facebook, and we look forward to seeing you there. If y'all need any if it's about premarital, we have a great premarital program. Our premarital program, as of date. For those who have taken our program and successfully went through our program, we have a 100% success rate.
MashaAllah. So make sure you guys get that premarital counseling. And before you jump off here, I do want to, because I would love to have both of you guys come back to actually talk about the importance of premarital counseling and what that process looks like. But if you could just really quick, I know we're at the end of the show and it's been kind of long, but if you could kind of just really quickly explain to people at what point to implement premarital counseling. Like I said, we can get more into detail about this on another podcast, inshallah. But at what point, you know, once they've been talking to someone for how long, at what point do you advise for someone to say, okay, at this point, you guys need to make intentions and do premarital counseling? And also, what does that process look like? Because a lot of people are really in the dark about what premarital counseling is and what to expect. So if you could just glance over that really quickly, I think that my listeners would appreciate that.
Well, one thing what we will not do in this situation, if you already have a date and that date is close, we will not do you're looking for premarital advice. You're not looking for premarital. So now with that, we have a 6-week program. If you are interested in getting married, you and your potential spouse, you've intended, let's say you trying to get married maybe within the 6-month period, we advise you to make sure that you do it before you get to your last 2 months of your projected date of being married. I'm gonna be honest with you here, because our premarital program, we're gonna talk about this at another time, but our premarital program is extensive to the point that some people actually walk away from one another within the program.
I know these stories. You know? And so just really quickly, what can they expect from premarital counseling? You know, so they're not going into it totally blind or feeling super uncomfortable with having to share information about themselves. Like what can they expect in that process?
Well, you can expect to really in the state of Georgia, there are some categories that, in order for you to get a legal civil marriage license, needs to take place, and our program actually fit that standard. Is, you know, lifestyle, religion, finances, sex, communication, conflict resolution, different things in nature there. So we go through that, but we actually can take it a little deeper than that, in dealing with, expectations and values. And so, and not to give away the program, because I don't want nobody sitting there thinking they can do it now because they ain't went through it with us and then mess it up, right? So, if you are interested in our premarital program, you can actually contact us, inbox us, or contact us through our contact page on our website, which is thatclaycouple.com, and we can definitely give you more insight on what it is that you look to do and what it is.
Okay. Now he just cut off again. But I'm going to tell you guys, is he back on?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you guys that, okay, well, you can go to that class. I was about to clear you out. Go ahead.
All right. With that, because, hey, I got to go to work. So, I appreciate Zara letting me be on her show today. Great show. I'm glad to see the things that you're doing for the community as well. And so, inshallah, again, that website is thatclaycouple.com. You can hit us at hashtag us on Instagram or Facebook at hashtag thatclaycouple.
Awesome. So thank you guys again for listening to another episode of Courtship Code. You guys know where to find us, blackmuslimsinglesociety.com. Put in your profile or sign up for premium matchmaking. You can also follow us on Instagram at Black Muslim Single Society or Facebook, Black Muslim Single Society. Make sure if there's any comments, any questions, any feedback that you would like to give, that you can reach out to us online, email it in, or you can also reach out to That Clay Couple and show your love and let them know that you guys checked out the podcast as well. So we look forward to speaking with you guys next week on the Courtship Code. Assalamu alaikum.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.